So this is about Q&A, so fire away. What's your question?
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Susan here. Hi, everybody. You've given lots of different recommendations about supplements that will help boost the immune system, literally to the point that my head is kind of spinning. Is there a shorthand version, or I know you don't like to recommend supplements without testing.
Or is narrowing down to something? Because you just opened up a giant warehouse.
Well, of course, we're all trying to avoid becoming ill with COVID-19. That's basically my question.
So if you're talking about something that you can take if you've got COVID-19, medically, the top of the list that I would recommend in this country right now would be hydroxychloroquine if you can get your hands on it. It's extremely hard to get your hands on. I don't know how this doctor got a stock of it, but he did in Texas, and it was announced because he's having about 100% success rate. And then there was somebody that mentioned last time that they tried to get into him. They knew somebody, and there was a 2-week waiting list, which is if you got COVID-19 and health problems, that could be a death sentence. You need help now. So I do know people that have ordered it from other places. I knew a person that was getting it over the counter that called me right after all this stuff started happening. And actually, when the president announced that it helps, the very next day, you couldn't get it. He couldn't get it. He called me to see if I could get it. I can't get it. I'm not an MD. But there are also places that, and I believe that's probably illegal, that you might be able to order it from other countries to have on stock. But if you don't have hydroxychloroquine or don't know of a doctor or any place that's allowing that, which would be against the regulations of the FDA right now, which is total insanity, then I would recommend C-herb, C-herb. And that's part of what I put in. Some of that is proprietary. They won't tell you what's all in there. So everything that I could find out that is in there, I put in the Immune Boost 19. But that's frequency. Always the source is the best. Well, sometimes the frequency is better than the source, actually. But typically, the source is the best. So I would, we get ours for, what, 30 years or so from Four Winds Nutrition. And anybody can order it. Okay, so you don't have to call us and order that. You can go to Four Winds Nutrition and just order you a small little tiny vial. Because can you see that? Okay, here's a pin. I am going to click the pin so that that part is out. And what I'm saying is, where's the camera on this thing? What I'm saying is, maybe a little background. What I'm saying is the part that sticks out of the pin would be about the maximum dosage you would need to put into an empty capsule. Any empty capsule. If you don't have one, then take something that's in a capsule and dump it out, and you can put this into the capsule and take it. Now, the people that have done this, because I've had medical doctors contact me that had exposure, did get diagnosed, and do have the symptoms, and they were asking what to do because they couldn't get hydroxychloroquine, and they don't know what to do because medical community does not treat viruses. You know that, right? So they took it and then took it again the next morning. Now, some people have felt relief from one dose, but the majority of everybody, of the feedback I've gotten so far, by the time you finish the day of the second dose, it's gone. COVID went bye-bye. It's very quick. Excuse me?
From the hydroxychloroquine?
No, from the C-herb.
Okay.
And when you go on to Four Winds, that's going to be their flagship product. And I'm not recommending anything else there. They have 2 different sizes. It's up to you which size you want to order. All you need is the small one. Because one will last you, if you've got let's say a sizable family, it will last you and your family for who knows how long, and your friends and neighbors probably as well. So you don't have to stock up on it, just get one and keep it handy. So let's say you didn't get COVID, but let me tell you, the odds are, So that means for the majority of the people, this is realistic side, you are going to be exposed to this virus sometime within the next 6 months to a year. Now, you might be one of the ones that gets exposed to it and your immune system is up enough with you've had, because the majority of the people that I test, somewhere between 90 and 95% of them come up with coronaviruses. So you're either going to have been exposed to it and you have set up enough antibodies where you might not even get sick. Or maybe you get exposed to it and you get sick and it's kind of like the flu and it runs its course and you're fine. Or you've got a compromised system or compromised lungs. The experts, what they're saying the biggest problem in this country is overweight. People that are overweight, everything in their system is more challenged. And when you get something like COVID-19, and this even goes for people in their 20s and 30s or 40s. But if you're an elder person, whatever age that you might think that would be, and you're overweight, then that puts you in one of the high-risk areas. Now, I'm not saying to run out and lose your weight, because that's really not a reality. What I'm saying is to get prepared, take care of your system, get your immune system up, and prepare for the reality, not the fear. So I'm talking about wisdom, faith. Be prepared for if something happens and you get a virus, treat it right away. That's kind of what you're asking, right?
Yes, I want to know how to beef up my immune system.
So let's put it this way, since fear has gone to the point of insanity, and people are just, I mean, I don't know if people are watching. I don't watch much of anything, but I hear so much from people, just people going super nuts. You've probably heard of this, like the woman that went up and sprayed the guy with mace or pepper spray that was outside eating without a mask. You can't eat with a mask. It's not possible.
Right.
And he's also outside where you're the safest. It's not indoors. That's nuts. The one that was in Walmart that already went by the person, you know how there's always somebody at the door at Walmart, and they forgot their mask. Said, "Oh, I forgot my mask in the car," and had children. And a woman inside past that person went up yelling and screaming at them and was saying, you know, like, "You're going to die. I hope you die," and leaned over to her little children saying, "I hope you die." That's insane. You're traumatizing this little child. So people have really gone off the deep end. There's lots of things going on, but just as far as the health and the virus, this is a virus, period. It's a virus that if you're not a little youngster or at any age, you're not in good or excellent health, there could be a possible big threat to it if you get it. You're not going to be able to depend, and I don't advise depending on the medical community. They're not going to treat you. I know people already and locally that have died that I consider murder because they just quarantined them and they gave them zero treatment when there are countless things. We could spend day in and day out talking about all the things that would treat this and treat your immune system that will kill the virus. All you got to do is treat it. So what I'm doing related to your question is narrowing that down to what I know at the moment is one of the most effective things. Now, zinc has been used by many countries, many doctors to incorporate with other medications and other even natural things because the fact is zinc will kill that virus and viruses. But the problem is you need a carrier to get it into the virus. Because viruses, kind of like cancer cells, hide inside protein covering. This is another reason see, I believe that I had the COVID. I'm going to circle back what I've talked about before, back in the first part of the year. Because my wife got hit with it, and she was okay one morning, and by the end of that day, she was miserable. Fever, and, you know, I got to go. And then later, I wasn't getting it. My daughter got it, and then I got it. And that night, I was asleep, and I was awakened because I couldn't breathe. Now, I've had flu a number of times in my life, and you have problems breathing. I've even had to sit up and sleep at night because of problems breathing. But I haven't had a situation where it came on like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't breathe. I woke up unable to breathe, and I had to clear. If I couldn't clear that out, you can guess the rest. So I stayed up the rest of that night and worked on myself. And then the next morning, I'm thinking, I got to get rid of this. COVID wasn't even announced at the moment. It was the next month. So a little dull, like I said earlier, the good thing to do is pray. So I prayed, and what came to mind, I didn't hear a voice from God. What came to mind was, sea herb. What does sea herb do? Why does it work so great for cancer? It strips the protein covering off the cancer cells, focuses the immune system on it to attack it and destroy it, even its roots. That's what's difficult about treating a virus. It hides in a protein covering. Same MO. So I went in and I took a dose. I felt better. I felt great. By the end of that day, I felt almost completely 100% healed. The next morning, I took another dose. Before that day was half gone, I was fine and felt better than I did the day before I got sick. So, in that, because of all the fear, if you get some kind of congestion, a little bit of this, that, or the other, achiness, because, the flu, just like the flu, a virus can come on with some first different type of symptoms. Maybe you lose taste of smell, taste of food, then take something. First thing I would do is take a big dose if you have it around. I assume people that are here and watching and care about nutrition has a lot of vitamin C. Do a vitamin C flush. Take enough to have a big flush bowel movement. Chances are it'll knock it right out. If it doesn't, and you seem to increase a little more, then I would take the sea herb.
Yes, thank you.
See how a question can open a whole big can of worms? That's what I suggest. Keep it simple. I do suggest these things. I wished I had more studies on them, and I would like to get that done so that we can more easily promote this. It'd be more cost effective and everything else, and deal with it with frequencies. I'll put it this way, it's worked on other viruses and everything. I've had people that were already sick bad with the flu, and they ordered this, and they said when they took it, shortly after, we're talking about within a few hours, they were fine. So what are your questions?
I just wanted to see you again.
It's great to see you. How are you doing?
We're good.
Your daughter?
She's good. She's laying down on the massage table right now.
Oh, good.
I work out a lot.
Good. That's what we should all do, especially during this time this year. That's what a lot of people are missing out. That's why a lot of their health, their mental capability, and their emotions are going awry because they're not physically working out like they should. I did some weights this morning. I did my treadmill and everything before I came up here, so I didn't have time to do a lot of else, but I got my I got my workout in. So
what is the sequence for stinking thinking?
Well,
I was looking in my book because I know you told us there was a sequence for that, and I'm looking through going, I gotta find that, but I couldn't figure out which one it was.
well, let's just say everything waist level, which deals with the mind, is
Okay.
important. And remember 9s, to let go, let go, let go, is also waist level. But then a lot of stinking thinking becomes because we got a messed up heart. So I would include in that's not waist level, the 13 sequence.
Okay.
Called the Fountain of Youth and all kinds of other good stuff that helps get you in a different frame of mind. You want another tip? There's so much that I didn't have time to put out there before, but there was we do have the new preparednessinfo.org. Preparednessinfo.org. That's the new site up, and I've got a couple things that I'm going to add, and you should watch this to understand everything that is happening. Now, one of those is also talking about what I have mentioned many, many times that's been going on for decades in this country that's basically bared its fruit. You got to understand the slow propaganda for, can I sum it up as in brainwashing? And this is by the handbooks of Stalin and different ones that they want to bring down this country. And they take time. For instance, step one, they say, takes a minimum of 15 to 20 years. You can give them witnesses and testimonies. You can even take them places and show them how this works, and it won't do any good because they won't believe it because they've already been programmed. Well, guess what? That's where we're at. That's what they're saying. And that's what we're seeing out there, isn't it? There's people that are thinking one way, people that are thinking another way, and both of them are missing a lot. But they're pretty closed-minded. These over here, you can't tell them anything. These over here, you can't tell them anything. That's pretty much where we're at. So the reason I spent some extra time about the insight this time about God, and a lot of people don't like, oh, don't talk about God. Well, I'm going to talk about God. So we need to develop that relationship. And I should have said that on there as well. For people that don't know the Lord or don't have that relationship, there's no better time than now. This would be a great time to receive the Lord, get saved, and develop the relationship, not a religion. Because here's the other side. The majority of the churches in this country are not addressing the issue. They're not addressing the spiritual issue. Some of them are dancing around the whole thing.
It's on the chat.
All right. I see one, Janice, vitamin D3 and zinc helpful for prevention. Yes. The D3, the only one that I would suggest would be the perk. And I talked about this last time. And the reason is the perk with oil, because the D3 is oil, because it is more penetrating, it helps the brain and everything better. And you don't need to do this sublingually, but I advise that you do the perk oil D3 under the tongue and longer than normal. I would say a couple of minutes or so. And if you want this to have proper effect, do the zinc under the tongue as well. Now, there are liquid zincs, and there are also things called zinc tally test, which is a liquid zinc. That would be horrible to put under the tongue. You wouldn't like that. But if you have a capsule, you can take the capsule, but I would suggest opening it, put some under the tongue. You may not like the taste. And hold it there with the D3 to have a more effect to all of your system. The other question was, I've heard that if you can't get hydroxychloroquine, a good alternative is the combination of quercetin and zinc. Yes, I've heard the same thing. And it's supposed to get the zinc into the cells, and that is the whole objective. So yes, I've heard many good things about that as well. Another one from Janice, yes, that is good too, got that. Does the symptom of losing taste and or smell, which seems to be a common symptom, I'll just let you know that's more among young people. When you have young people getting it, that's more classic for them. It seems to be a common symptom, indicate zinc deficiency, which might result when the body is fighting a virus. I don't think so. It goes beyond that. This is from John. I currently have valley fever with labored breathing. Would sea herb work for that? Also doing kidney and other breathing TKM, anything else to help. So yes, I do believe minute small doses of sea herb will help. Please don't take it any way than what I'm saying, because sea herb is powerful. It's natural medicine. And I don't even suggest sea herb for people that have internal cancer anymore. The product and the people will, but I don't. Because it's so powerful. I'll put it this way. If you had a little bit of cancer in the stomach, I'll just use that for an example. It's going to kill it and eat a hole in there and get all the roots, which could result in a hole in your stomach. And you could be bleeding out, and that could cause death. So only take this like I'm talking about, and don't take it any other way, and ever refer to me because you didn't take it like I said. You don't need much, and you don't need it frequently. Don't take it as a preventative. I have never hinted at doing that. Now let's talk about the other part. Yes, I do believe sea herb would help work for that, if for nothing else, because it helps stimulate your immune system. You said, what other kidney? That was another thing that I never have enough time on these things, and that is on that informational shorts page. It's on the same thing under resources tab, and then you go all the way to the bottom to informational shorts. And when that pulls up, there's one viewer and then a row of videos. The third video is talking about the number 3 sequence, which is the only one with a prerequisite of 15. Of all the things in the immune system, including the immune recipe and tons of other things that help, that's the top of the list in my opinion, especially for any virus, cold, any of those general classifications, any of them. But on that same video, I gave you another way to use it. That's going to be developed into an application that will be printed kind of like this one is and going to be put out. And that is an extra thing that I have done. For instance, when my daughter had what we thought at the time was COVID, that's what I worked on her with. We did simultaneously, and we opened the 3s by doing, we opened the 15s by doing the 15 sequence bilateral. Then we did the 3 sequence bilateral. In fact, Letty, you're here. Do you remember when your daughter was having a problem with speaking?
Oh, yes.
And you were giving me MPEGs and emails, and I said to do what? The 3 sequence with a prerequisite of the 15. Well, you did it, and you contacted the next day, she was actually worse because it had not broken through. And so I said, just do it till you break through. And if I remember correctly, you called the next day after that. Your husband had stayed home, so what I said was, y'all both do this. Do it bilateral, you do the 15 sequence thoroughly. When you get done, do the 3 sequence bilateral, and then go back to the 15, and then go back to the 3, because it works.
It does.
And then you got back with us, and I forgot how high that was, but she was running a high fever, and it got to the part in speech where she's having difficult time getting any words out. Mm-hmm. And all that broke at the same time. Mm-hmm. So do y'all understand that's the reason that I am putting the importance on the 3 is because it works. You have to work it though. You have to get it to work. It's not like, well, I did it, I'm done. No, you have to open it. I talked to a client last week, and they said, I spent 2 hours on the median sequence this past weekend. I said, oh, really? You just had the time and you wanted to work on it that long? He says, no, I had the time, but I held each step until I felt it was truly where you taught that it needs to be. Like what we teach in classes with synchronicity, the intensity, the right texture, everything, and said that it took her 2 hours to get through one application of the median sequence. This is what most people don't realize. They think, well, if I touch it a minute per step or 3 minutes per step, or maybe I'll do the max and I'll do it 5 minutes per step, then I'm there. No. Your pulses and textures will give you the confirmation if you're there. And let's put it this way. If you're dealing with something with signs and symptoms like these viruses that we're talking about, then you want to do it until the signs and symptoms change. So let's say you do it and you get fluff with tone, synchronized, right intensity with everything, and you complete the application and you do it bilaterally. If they're still suffering, do it again. Get your breakthrough right there. Stop it in its tracks. And that extra one that I added in, if you'll go to that number 3 video that explains there, it's where you're holding 1, 3, working all fingers, and then all fingers on the other side, and then hold the other 3, work all same side and then opposite side. It is so thorough. It's kind of like what this is in a way, because this is for low back pain, and you're holding all toes on the right side, all of them top and bottom, same time, and then you're working up the back on one side and then up the back on the other side while you're holding those toes. You never let go of those toes. What was the other question there? I hope y'all got that about the threes, because I'm going to keep repeating that over and over, because that's the pinnacle. The one from an iPhone says, is heart palpitations the same as irregular heartbeat? It could be considered as that. I'm going by the medical diagnosis of palpitations. The other question from Janice is, would sea herb work for prostate cancer? Slow growing kind. It would not be my first choice. There's a lot of other things to use for that, especially for slow growing kind, that have been highly successful and totally resolved it for people without using sea herb for an internal cancer. And for Judy, can you please repeat what you said about the sea herb to take? Very little, once or twice. So you're taking a minute dose, about the, you know those little stick pins that have a plastic head on it? So I would consider that the maximum amount to put in a capsule at a time. And take that one day, one time, and if you need, take it the next day. I don't know if you need another dose. If someone's very severe and not responding, then you might want to take it a third day. All right, so any question, last question?
Well, what's the difference between the ingredients in the internal and external sea herb?
The ingredients?
Mm-hmm. I went on their website.
The ingredients is exactly the same for the internal and external. It's
Okay.
identical.
Okay.
The internal is a larger dose. So they call it external, you get a smaller dose. For the internal, you get a larger dose. I can't really say that, but I've done it with myself. But the company don't promote it. So can you see? We make our own HOCl from the highest quality that we could find, and I use it because I have been taxed with all varieties of skin cancer and nearly died from melanoma before, as most people know, for a long, long time. And I have gotten rid of some of the really stubborn ones from using this, just spraying it on me
Okay, let me show you.
once or twice a day. And I had a sty coming up the other day. Okay, I see that. Now that's dark. Is it growing?
See?
Okay, so here's my deal. Because of my experience, anything that appears and grows on your skin that is dark, I'd have it checked out. The reason I say that is because of the potential of it might be melanoma. Because the classic thing of melanoma is a dark spot that appears and then grows at some, now it could be something totally different. But if it's melanoma, they grow fast and they grow in, and then they can metastasize. And that is, you just don't want to go there. You know, I had a little spot come up on my neck that was dark, and I went down and got it checked, and just by looking, they didn't have to they didn't have to cut, they didn't have to do anything. They did their examination, said, no, that's not melanoma. But you know what? Now I know, because I nearly died from melanoma, and it was horrible, and it was very fast. But for the others, there's a type of skin cancer that grows kind of like you might say has the consistency and the look almost kind of like a wart. And it's really stubborn because when I put iodine or different things on it, it doesn't seem to get to it very well. So I kept spraying this. It went away. It's gone. Just boom. And that thing was about as big as the end of that pin, what is above the pink part.
Wow.
And was concerning for me. And yes, I did have it checked out, and the dermatologist said, yes, that's cancer. We need to cut that off right away. But I didn't want to do that. It wasn't melanoma. I have time. And it worked. So I highly promote this. This stuff is really awesome. It has never been said to help with those type of things, but it's been my experience, at least for me, that it does. So I would work on that. You could also do the extraction. You could also palm calves, do different things that work with dermis first and then epidermis second, and work on the local area. You know, like hold it with your left hand and hold the 22 on the same side with your right hand to get the circulation through there. Use this. If it's something that's growing, you want to have it checked out. But in between, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It's a lot better than looking at a camera and you don't even know if it's working or not. So, love y'all guys. Have peace. Stay with a connection with the Lord because He's got everything in His hands, but He's waiting on us to petition Him for what's to be done. It's a choice. So God bless you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.